Chapter 11. It happened, at the return of the year, at the time when kings go out to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him, and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon, and besieged Rabbah. But David stayed at Jerusalem. It happened at evening, that David arose from off his bed and walked on the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful to look at. David sent and inquired after the woman. One said, "Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" David sent messengers and took her, and she came into him, and he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanness, and she returned to her house. The woman conceived, and she sent and told David and said, "I am with child." David sent to Joab, saying, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." Joab sent Uriah to David. When Uriah was come to him, David asked of him how Joab did, and how the people fared, and how the war prospered. David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of food from the king. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and didn't go down to his house. When they had told David, saying, "Uriah didn't go down to his house," David said to Uriah, "Haven't you come from a journey? Why did you not go down to your house?" Uriah said to David, "The ark and Israel and Judah abide in Bus, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open field. Shall I then go into my house, to eat and to drink, and to lie with my wife? As you live and as your soul lives, I will not do this thing." David said to Uriah, "Stay here today also, and tomorrow I will let you depart." So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and the next day. When David had called him, he ate and drank before him, and he made him drunk. And at evening he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his lord, but didn't go down to his house. It happened in the morning that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. He wrote in the letter, saying, "Set Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire from him that he may be struck and die." It happened when Joab kept watch on the city, that he assigned Uriah to the place where he knew that valiant men were. The men of the city went out and fought with Joab, and there fell some of the people, even of the servants of David, and Uriah the Hittite died also. Then Joab sent and told David all things concerning the war, and he charged the messenger, saying, "When you have made an end of telling all the things concerning the war to the king, it shall be that, if the king's wrath arises, and he tells you, 'Why did you go so near the city to fight? Didn't you know that they would shoot from the wall? Who struck Abimelech the son of Jerubbesheth? Didn't a woman cast an upper millstone on him from the wall, so that he died at Thebes? Why did you go so near the wall?' Then you shall say, 'Your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also.'" So the messenger went and came, and showed David all that Joab had sent him for. The messenger said to David, "The men prevailed against us, and came out to us into the field, and we were on them even to the entrance of the gate. The shooters shot at your servants from off the wall, and some of the king's servants are dead, and your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also." Then David said to the messenger, "This is what you shall tell Joab. Don't let this thing displease you, for the sword devours one as well as another. Make your battle more strong against the city and overthrow it, and encourage him." When the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah her husband was dead, she made lamentation for her husband. When the mourning was past, David sent and took her home to his house, and she became his wife, and bore him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. Chapter 12. The Lord sent Nathan to David. He came to him and said to him, "There were 2 men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had very many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing, except one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and raised. It grew up together with him, and with his children. It ate of his own food, and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was to him like a daughter. A traveler came to the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd to dress for the wayfaring man who had come to him. But he took the poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man who had come to visit him. David's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, As the Lord lives, the man who has done this is worthy to die. He shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. Nathan said to David, You are the man. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you out of the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house, and your master's wives into your bosom, and gave you the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that would have been too little, I would have added to you many more such things. Why have you despised the word of the Lord, to do that which is evil in his sight? You have struck Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and have taken his wife to be your wife, and have slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword will never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. This is what the Lord says, Behold, I will raise up evil against you out of your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes, and give them to your neighbor, and he will lie with your wives in the sight of this sun. For you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and before the sun. David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. Nathan said to David, The Lord also has put away your sin. You will not die. However, because by this deed you have given great occasion to the Lord's enemies to blaspheme, the child also who is born to you shall surely die. Nathan departed to his house. The Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bore to David, and it was very sick. David therefore begged God for the child, and David fasted, and went in, and lay all night on the earth. The elders of his house arose and stood beside him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. It happened on the 7th day that the child died. The servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive we spoke to him, and he didn't listen to our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants were whispering together, David perceived that the child was dead, and David said to his servants, Is the child dead? They said, He is dead. Then David arose from the earth, and washed, and anointed himself, and changed his clothing, and he came into the house of the Lord, and worshipped. Then he came into his own house, and when he asked, they set bread before him, and he ate. Then his servants said to him, What thing is this that you have done? You did fast and weep for the child while it was alive, but when the child was dead, you did rise and eat bread. He said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, Who knows whether the Lord will not be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead, why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he will not return to me. David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in to her, and lay with her, and she bore a son, and he called his name Solomon. The Lord loved him, and he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and he named him Jedediah for the Lord's sake. Now Joab fought against Rabbah of the children of Ammon, and took the royal city. Joab sent messengers to David and said, I have fought against Rabbah, yes, I have taken the city of waters. Now therefore gather the rest of the people together, and encamp against the city, and take it, lest I take the city, and it be called after my name. David gathered all the people together, and went to Rabbah, and fought against it, and took it. He took the crown of the king from off his head, and the weight of it was a talent of gold, and in it were precious stones, and it was set on David's head. He brought forth the spoil of the city in great quantity. He brought forth the people who were therein, and put them under saws, and under harrows of iron, and under axes of iron, and made them pass through the brick kiln. And thus he did to all the cities of the children of Ammon. David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. Chapter 13. It happened after this, that Absalom the son of David had a beautiful sister, whose name was Tamar, and Amnon the son of David loved her. Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick because of his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and it seemed hard to Amnon to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend, whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother, and Jonadab was a very subtle man. He said to him, "Why, son of the king, are you thus lean from day to day? Won't you tell me?" Amnon said to him, "I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister." Jonadab said to him, "Lay down on your bed, and pretend you're sick, and when your father comes to see you, tell him, 'Please let my sister Tamar come and give me bread to eat, and dress the food in my sight that I may see it, and eat it from her hand.'" So Amnon lay down and pretended to be sick, and when the king was come to see him, Amnon said to the king, "Please let my sister Tamar come, and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat from her hand." Then David sent home to Tamar, saying, "Go now to your brother Amnon's house, and bring him food." So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was laid down. She took dough and kneaded it, and made cakes in his sight, and did bake the cakes. She took the pan and poured them out before him, but he refused to eat. Amnon said, "Have all the men leave out from me." They went out every man from him. Amnon said to Tamar, "Bring the food into the chamber, that I may eat from your hand." Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them into the chamber to Amnon her brother. When she had brought them near to him to eat, he took hold of her, and said to her, "Come, lie with me, my sister." She answered him, "No, my brother, do not force me, for such thing ought not to be done in Israel. Don't do this folly. Where shall I carry my shame? And as for you, you will be as one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore please speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you." However, he would not listen to her voice, but being stronger than she, he forced her, and lay with her. Then Amnon hated her with exceeding great hatred, for the hatred with which he hated her was greater than the love with which he had loved her. Amnon said to her, "Arise, be gone." She said to him, "Not so, because this great wrong in putting me forth is worse than the other you did to me." But he would not listen to her. Then he called his servants who ministered to him, and said, "Put now this woman out from me, and bolt the door after her." She had a garment of various colors on her, for with such robes were the king's daughters who were virgins dressed. Then his servant brought her out, and bolted the door after her. Tamar put ashes on her head, and tore her garment of various colors that was on her, and she laid her hand on her head, and went her way, crying aloud as she went. Absalom her brother said to her, "Has Amnon your brother been with you? But now hold your peace, my sister, he is your brother. Don't take this thing to heart." So Tamar remained desolate in her brother's Absalom's house. But when King David heard of all these things, he was very angry. Absalom spoke to Amnon neither good nor bad, for Absalom hated Amnon, because he had forced his sister Tamar. It happened after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal Hazor, which is beside Ephraim, and Absalom invited all the king's sons. Absalom came to the king and said, "See now, your servant has sheep shearers. Let the king, I pray you, and his servants go with your servant." The king said to Absalom, "No, my son, let us not all go, lest we be burdensome to you." He pressed him. However, he would not go, but blessed him. Then said Absalom, "If not, then please let my brother Amnon go with us." The king said to him, "Why should he go with you?" But Absalom pressed him, and he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. Absalom commanded his servants, saying, "Mark now when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I tell you, 'Smite Amnon, then kill him,' don't be afraid. Haven't I commanded you? Be courageous and be valiant." The servants of Absalom did to Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and every man got him up on his mule and fled. It happened, while they were in the way, that the news came to David, saying, Absalom has slain all the king's sons, and there is not one of them left." Then the king arose and tore his garments, and lay on the earth, and all his servants stood by with their clothes torn. Jonadab the son of Shemaiah, David's brother, answered, "Don't let my lord suppose that they have killed all the young men, the king's sons, for Amnon only is dead. For by the appointment of Absalom this has been determined from the day that he forced his sister Tamar. Now therefore don't let my lord the king take the thing to his heart, to think that all the king's sons are dead, for Amnon only is dead." But Absalom fled. The young man who kept the watch lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there came much people by the way of the hillside behind him. Jonadab said to the king, "Behold, the king's sons are come, as your servant said, so it is." It happened, as soon as he had made an end of speaking, that behold, the king's sons came, and lifted up their voice and wept, and the king also and all his servants wept very greatly. But Absalom fled, and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihur, king of Geshur. David mourned for his son every day. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur, and was there 3 years. The soul of King David longed to go forth to Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead. Chapter 14. Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, perceived that the king's heart was toward Absalom. Joab sent to Tekoa, and fetched there a wise woman, and said to her, "Please act like a mourner, and put on mourning clothing. Please, and don't anoint yourself with oil, but be as a woman who has a long time mourned for the dead, and go into the king, and speak to him in this manner." So Joab put the words in her mouth. When the woman of Tekoa spoke to the king, she fell on her face to the ground, and did obeisance, and said, "Help, O king." The king said to her, "What ails you?" She answered, "Of a truth I am a widow, and my husband is dead. Your handmaid had 2 sons, and they strove together in the field, and there was none to part them. But the one struck the other and killed him. Behold, the whole family is risen up against your handmaid, and they say, 'Deliver him who struck his brother, that we may kill him for the life of his brother whom he killed.' And so they destroy the heir also. Thus will they quench my coal that is left, and leave to my husband neither name nor remainder on the surface of the earth." The king said to the woman, "Go to your house, and I will give charge concerning you." The woman of Tekoa said to the king, "My lord, O king, the iniquity be on me and on my father's house, and the king in his throne be guiltless." The king said, "Whoever says anything to you, bring him to me, and he shall not touch you any more." Then she said, "Please let the king remember the Lord your God, that the avenger of blood destroy not any more, lest they destroy my son." He said, "As the Lord lives, there shall not one hair of your son fall to the earth." Then the woman said, "Please let your handmaid speak a word to my lord the king." He said, "Say on." The woman said, "Why then have you devised such a thing against the people of God? For in speaking this word, the king is as one who is guilty, and that the king does not bring home again his banished one. For we must all die, and are as water spilled on the ground, which can't be gathered up again. Neither does God take away life, but devises means that he who is banished not be an outcast from him. Now therefore, seeing that I have come to speak this word to my lord the king, it is because the people have made me afraid. And your handmaid said, I will now speak to the king. It may be that the king will perform the request of his servant. For the king will hear, to deliver his servant out of the hand of the man who would destroy me and my son together out of the inheritance of God. Then your handmaid said, Please let the word of my lord the king be comfortable, for as an angel of God, so is my lord the king, to discern good and bad, and the Lord your God be with you. Then the king answered the woman, Please don't hide anything from me that I shall ask you. The woman said, Let my lord the king now speak. The king said, Is the hand of Joab with you in all this? The woman answered, As your soul lives, my lord the king, None can turn to the right hand or to the left from anything that my lord the king has spoken. For your servant Joab, he brought me, and he put all these words in the mouth of your handmaid. To change the face of the matter has your servant Joab done this thing. And my lord is wise, according to the wisdom of an angel of God, to know all things that are in the earth. The king said to Joab, Behold now, I have done this thing. Go therefore and bring the young man Absalom back. Joab fell to the ground on his face, and blessed the king. And Joab said, Today your servant knows that I have found favor in your sight, my lord, and that the king has performed the request of his servant. So Joab arose and went to Geshur, and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. The king said, Let him turn to his own house, but let him not see my face. So Absalom went to his own house, and he didn't see the king's face. Now in all Israel there was none to be so much praised as Absalom for his beauty. From the sole of his foot even to the crown of his head there was no blemish in him. When he cut the hair of his head, now it was at every year's end that he cut it, because it was heavy on him, and therefore he cut it. He weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels, after the king's weight. To Absalom there were born 3 sons and 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar. She was a woman of a beautiful face. Absalom lived 2 full years in Jerusalem, and he didn't see the king's face. Then Absalom sent for Joab to send him to the king, but he would not come to him. And he sent again a second time, but he would not come. Therefore he said to his servants, Behold, Joab's field is near mine, and he has barley there. Go and set it on fire. Absalom's servants set the field on fire. Then Joab arose and came to Absalom to his house, and said to him, Why have your servants set my field on fire? Absalom answered Joab, Behold, I sent to you, saying, Come here, that I may send you to the king to say, Why am I come from Geshur? It is better for me to be there still. Now therefore let me see the king's face, and if there be iniquity in me, let him kill me. So Joab came to the king and told him, and when he had called for Absalom, he came to the king, and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. Chapter 15. It happened after this, that Absalom prepared a chariot and horses, and 50 men to run before him. Absalom rose up early and stood beside the way of the gate, and it was so, that when any man had a problem which should come to the king for judgment, then Absalom called to him and said, Of what city are you? He said, Your servant is one of the tribes of Israel. Absalom said to him, Behold, your matters are good and right, but there is no man deputized of the king to hear you. Absalom said moreover, Oh, that I were made judge in the land, that every man who has any problem or cause might come to me, and I would do him justice. It was so, that when any man came near to do him obeisance, he put forth his hand, and took hold of him, and kissed him. In this manner Absalom did to all Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. It happened at the end of 40 years, that Absalom said to the king, Please let me go and pay my vow which I have vowed to the Lord in Hebron. For your servant vowed a vow while I abode at Geshur in Syria, saying, If the Lord will indeed bring me again to Jerusalem, then I will serve the Lord. The king said to him, Go in peace. So he arose and went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, As soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then you shall say, Absalom is king in Hebron. With Absalom went 200 men out of Jerusalem who were invited, and when in their simplicity they didn't know anything. Absalom sent for Ahithophel, the Gilonite, David's counselor, from his city, even from Gilo, while he was offering the sacrifices. The conspiracy was strong, for the people increased continually with Absalom. There came a messenger to David, saying, The hearts of the men of Israel are after Absalom. David said to all his servants who were with him at Jerusalem, Arise and let us flee, or else none of us shall escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us quickly, and bring down evil on us, and strike the city with the edge of the sword. The king's servants said to the king, Behold, your servants are ready to do whatever my lord the king shall choose. The king went forth and all his household after him. The king left 10 women who were concubines to keep the house. The king went forth and all the people after him, and they stayed in Beth-merhach. All his servants passed on beside him, and all the Cherethites, and all the Pelethites, and all the Gittites, 600 men who came after him from Gath, passed on before the king. Then the king said to Ittai the Gittite, Why do you go with us? Return and abide with the king, for you are a foreigner, and also an exile. Return to your own place. Whereas you came but yesterday, should I this day make you go up and down with us, seeing I go where I may? Return, and take back your brothers. Mercy and truth be with you. Ittai answered the king and said, As the Lord lives, and as my lord the king lives, surely in what place my lord the king shall be, whether for life or for death, even there also will your servant be. David said to Ittai, Go and pass over. Ittai the Gittite passed over, and all his men, and all the little ones who were with him. All the country wept with a loud voice, and all the people passed over. The king also himself passed over the brook Kidron, and all the people passed over toward the way of the wilderness. Behold, Zadok also came, and all the Levites with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of God. And they set down the ark of God, and Abiathar went up, until all the people had done passing out of the city. The king said to Zadok, Carry back the ark of God into the city. If I shall find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me again, and show me both it and his habitation. But if he says, I have no delight in you, behold, here I am, let him do to me as seems good to him. The king said also to Zadok the priest, Aren't you a seer? Return into the city in peace, and your 2 sons with you, Ahimaaz your son, and Jonathan the son of Abiathar. Behold, I will stay at the fords of the wilderness, until word comes from you to inform me. Zadok therefore and Abiathar carried the ark of God again to Jerusalem, and they abode there. David went up by the ascent of the Mount of Olives, and wept as he went up, and he had his head covered, and went barefoot, and all the people who were with him covered every man his head, and they went up, weeping as they went. One told David, saying, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. David said, O Lord, please turn the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness. It happened that when David had come to the top of the ascent, where God was worshipped, behold, Hushai the Archite came to meet him with his coat torn, and earth on his head. David said to him, If you pass on with me, then you will be a burden to me. But if you return to the city and tell Absalom, I will be your servant, O king, as I have been your father's servant in time past, so I will now be your servant. Then you will defeat for me the counsel of Ahithophel. Don't you have Zadok and Abiathar the priests there with you? Therefore it shall be, that whatever thing you shall hear out of the king's house, you can tell it to Zadok and Abiathar the priest. Behold, they have there with them their 2 sons, Ahimaaz Zadok's son, and Jonathan Abiathar's son, and by them shall you send to tell me everything you shall hear. So Hushai, David's friend, came into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem.